Welcome, everybody. It is Veil of Sound interview day, but not our regular Sunday interview. And it's not even a normal interview for us, because with this interview, we want to kickstart a very special, bigger thing here on our page. You have already seen it. We have the wonderful opportunity to talk to one of my live music heroes as part of a special on my favorite festival of all time, Roadburn Festival, and its head, Walter Hoeijmakers, is here with us today. So, Walter, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Torsten.
How is Mr. Roadburn today? Where are we catching you right now?
We are in the final stages of the production. There is many people working on behind the scenes, working on logistics, production, advancing everything for the bands, making sure that everything will be set up properly for the festival. Becky and Joelle are working on contractual issues and such, and I'm trying to keep an overview and talk to most of the parties involved behind the scenes. That is like bands, booking agencies, artists, fine artists, and that kind of thing. So we basically are tying everything together. So we are tying up all the loose ends.
Yeah, I mean, like today it's only 2 weeks away, and we are already excited. I am already excited because of only 2 weeks from going back to Tilburg. But before we talk about this year's edition, let's just take like one little step back. How was the idea born for what now is Roadburn? Do you remember?
That is a very good question, as we have gone through different stages with Roadburn. Originally, we started a website back in 1998. And our idea was to cover the thriving stoner and doom scene back then. And in 1999, a friend had the idea that we maybe could translate or bring, it's better to say, to bring the look and feel of the website to the stage. So the idea of a small festival was born, like an all-nighter, something like that. And then throughout the years, we had different stages. We become a full-on one-day festival, then we became a full-on 2-day festival, and throughout the years it became a 3-day and even a 4-day festival. But it all happened very organically. We never had a blueprint, we never had a strategic plan how to build Roadburn, or how to convert Roadburn into a fully fledged festival. It just happened organically over the years. And I still have to pinch myself several times that it's not a fever dream, that Roadburn is actually a well-known festival, that Roadburn is as it is today. Again, it all happened organically, and basically a dream come true, but it just happened over the years, and it turned into something very very seriously. It's a very serious festival, and again, it just happened, and all of us involved are just very proud of this whole trajectory.
As you can be. Many people might not know that at the beginning, Roadburn did not always take place in Tilburg. It took a few years before you settled down on the O13 and Tilburg as a city. How important do you think was that settling down in one specific place?
I think this was the beginning of Roadburn as it is now today. Like we did, like as I said, one-nighters, a couple of bands per night at several venues. either at Doornroosje Nijmegen or FNR Eindhoven. We even did stuff at the Melkweg in Amsterdam and such. And that were all small time events, nicely put together with a lot of heart and soul. But back in 2005, the 013 venue approached us. We were having something, I think it was the 10th Roadburn Festival or something. And again, it was still a small time festival, a small time evening. And then the 013 venue approached us what if we do a whole day and we invite 10 bands to celebrate that you have done 10 events? And 10 bands became 15 bands. We had 1,001 visitors from all over Europe, which surprised us a lot. I remember we had things like Brent Bjork and Astrosonic playing, and we had Space Ritual back then in 2005. But we also had Sun, Electric Wizard, High on Fire, and Alabama Thunder Pussy playing.
And by the way, for everybody who doesn't know, that was one stage in the 013. Those 5 bands that you just mentioned, one stage. Highly unimaginative nowadays.
Yeah, and then back then in 2005, that was something completely new, and especially High on Fire was making waves, Electric Wizard was making waves, Sunno were making a lot of waves, and putting these bands together at one stage at one night in Tilburg spoke volume to a lot of people in Europe who fell in love with that stoner and doom scene. And then we started to notice wait a minute, we have something on our hands here. Maybe we can do this every year. And that was the start of what Roadburn is now. But it took us by surprise. It really took us by surprise. The 2006 edition took us by surprise. And then in 2007, we turned into a 2-day festival with Melvins headlining on the Friday, Neurosis coming back to mainland in Europe in quite a time, headlining the Saturday night. And then we sold suddenly 2,000 tickets, and people came from all over the world. And from that moment on, we decided to focus on the festival a little bit more than on the website, and turned it, as I said, in a fully fledged festival. And still, wow, what a journey.
What always strikes me about Roadburn is that it is a very immersive experience, and I think with some little twists and details, you are able to deepen that experience every year. For example, last year you had a simple fence around the Koppelhal area. And so people went through that fence. It was always open on one side, but you went through that fence and it was again okay, this is a world where everybody in here basically is just as weird as I am. And that is a very, very cool experience. And is that something you strive for, to make the experience of Roadburn even more immersive?
Yes, we have always strived for that since the very beginning. We wanted Roadburn to be a home away from home, a platform for bands to excel, and a platform for people who love this music to actually meet in person. Back then, when we started out, there was no social media. There was only email groups and forums and websites. So we wanted Roadburn to be a physical place where all the outsiders could meet up, albeit outsiders playing in bands or outsiders listening to this music. But we wanted to create a hub, a safe haven for all of us to meet up in person, to see each other, enjoy the same music, discuss life, discuss culture, music, art, and everything. And hence, Roadburn being such an immersive experience. We kept building we kept building that it's not building, but we made sure that Roadburn is that kind of immersive experience over the years, and we still try to fine-tune it and make sure that people feel at home at Roadburn and meet all these like-minded people from all over the world and enjoy this music in the best possible and laid-back atmosphere.
What is also part of that immersive character is that there is Roadburn the festival, but Roadburn seems to play a huge part in so many people's lives throughout the year. And again, it's little details, like you basically try to give the audience a new weekly playlist on Spotify every week, nearly every week. Sometimes it can be two, but mostly weekly. So you, in that way, keep the interest alive, and everybody seems, you know, as soon as the first announcements go up, September, October, somewhere around that, people start discussing, oh, what's else going to come? And then it's those 6 months leading up to the festival itself. The festival, which of course is the highlight of the year. And then, I don't know how you perceive it, but after that, we all get that Roadburn blues for a week or two. And after that, it's again, we are not bluesy, but we're like, we're still talking about it. We are exchanging pictures, ideas, stuff. Oh, did you see that? I couldn't. So it seems as if Roadburn has become a year-long experience for so many people. Would you ever have imagined that?
No, not at all. And on the other hand, it's so inspiring for us to keep working on the festival, to be immersive, to keep the community alive, as we are part of this. We are like the same outsiders. We are the same, we share the same heart and soul, the same passion, and we want to take everyone on our journey. Like at Roadburn, we are on a kind of journey of discovery. We love to discover new music. We love to talk about it. We love to present this new music through our weekly playlists. And we love to actually give all these new, young and exciting bands a platform to play for a rabid international audience. So for us, Roadburn is also a whole year through experience. Like, I live and breathe Roadburn. It's part of who I am. And maybe I'm a man on a mission, or maybe I'm a kind of like, yes, I said a man on a mission, or maybe I'm like a preacher or something, but I want to preach heaviness. I want to, talking for myself, of course, I want to share all of my love for this kind of music and for the underground with like-minded people. And I think that goes for Becky, Joelle, and all the others. Like, and it keeps us going. That Roadburn is such a community with all its pitfalls, challenges, flaws, weird decisions, and such. Every step of the way is inspiring, albeit a different decision, or like changing the artistic or musical course of the festival a bit. It's always done with that whole experience in mind. Could never ever think about it. And we have always done that organically over the years, but I have to admit, of course, we have to think a bit strategically nowadays and see what the future brings. There is so much at stake at Roadburn. It's such an important festival, not only for us or the O13 venue or the attendees or the bands or the industry. Roadburn has become more the sum of its parts. And that is something that we could never have imagined when we started out. And it has become a different beast than, let's say, 25 years ago. But still, I'm still so happy that it's this home away from home for so many people and so many bands. And speaking for myself, that is what keeps me going. I'm still feeling the urgency to share my love with everybody around, and everybody revolving around Roadburn. And yeah, as I said, that keeps me going.
And that is also something that everybody feels. I said that it's a year-long thing for everybody. Of course, it is also a year-long thing for you. So how busy are the months after Roadburn?
That is a really good question. Of course, it's the post-Roadburn blues. It hits me hard as well. So mostly in April, May, I need to recover from everything, especially now with my eye condition. But I still keep listening to new bands, and I still try to keep up what's going on in the underground. I still to try and find out what key figures in the scenes are talking about. And then gradually in June, July, Becky and Joels are starting to book the bands, and we are reaching out to bookings agents, managers and bands, and are trying to figure out whether they will be on tour in April next year. And we are going to pitch the artistic scope and feel for Roadburn to many of the people involved. As you said, Roadburn, everything about Roadburn is in the details. And we are not like just start booking bands because we get them offered. We really have a plan. We are planning the scope and feel of each and every festival. And with that in mind, we start working. And then it's basically hard work from then on, trying to secure the bands, trying to find the right tone of voice to present the band and the festival, but also to adapt to new situations. Like, as I said, like a couple of times already in the Q&As through Instagram, or the Q&As on Instagram, the world has changed post-pandemic. And this is also, this also goes for the underground. It's heavily changed. And things are not as easy as it was back in 2019 and prior to 2019. So now we have to adjust to a whole new situation where everything is completely different, from booking a band to from booking a band to publicity, from logistic and productional means to literally make sure that we get the grants and such. It's so much hard work in such different circumstances, with so many challenges and pitfalls to navigate. Things have changed drastically, and I think that is now the most difficult thing to adapt to, that we are in a new reality, and that everything that we have done prior to the pandemic doesn't count in a way. In a way, this feels to be, it feels that we have to start all over again. And that took us by surprise and makes things difficult. We need to adapt. And it's a challenge, but it feels of fire too, because we want to continue turning Roadburn into this immersive festival that has so much meaning to everyone.
You have mentioned pitching stuff or plans to people. How did you pitch this year's festival to bands?
When Roadburn 2022 was over, we had something, it's 2022, all the corona measures have been lifted. We can start from scratch. We can start Roadburn and planning it as usual as prior to the pandemic. And that's how we started. And just saying, hey, we're having Roadburn in April 2023. this is like artistically the kind of scope and feel we want to put emphasis on a certain artistic scope and feel. And we started in June, July, and everything was so slow. Bands, bookers, managers, everyone was very reluctant, very careful, and very slow. And we had a reality check very soon when we started to realize that many bands and many people working in this scene were either mentally broke, financially broke, and that it was a huge difference than before, and that we needed to adapt to this situation, and that we needed to wait for confirmations, or that we literally had to coach bands and bookers in this whole process, and that we had to like actually try to convince them that it would be worthwhile to play Roadburn, but we also had to listen to their like fears and concerns. And suddenly the whole dynamics were shifting towards anxiety, fear, dynamics of like, hey, can we put up tours? Will there be enough people buying tickets? Like, everything changed. And then we started to notice that it would be a huge task and really, really difficult to put Roadburn 2023 together. And of course, we had something like, okay, we can do two things: either cancel the festival or make sure that we put on Roadburn 2023 and keep our artistic scope and feel going. Hence, deliberately choosing for young and new bands, young and new underground bands, making sure that Roadburn is the platform for bands to excel, that we are redefining heaviness, that we are presenting new and exciting bands that didn't have the opportunity to play during the pandemic or in 2022. And we set out for that. We really deliberately started to focus on the underground, approaching young bands, new bands that were making waves over the pandemic, over the course of the pandemic, and didn't have the chance to play. And then the ball started to roll. The ball kept rolling because we adapted to this whole new situation. It wasn't easy. It was very difficult. We started to notice that we had to explain this to people because everybody was hoping that the live music industry would be back to normal, which isn't. And we just decided to set out and keep Roadburn fresh and interesting when it comes to redefining heaviness. And we were broadening our horizon. We were really, the idea was to present, to focus on heavy music in all its facets, whether it's with heavy-based music or singer-songwriters or experimental music or the, electronic artists. We want to represent heaviness in all its shapes and forms, and also focusing on current bands, on bands that have a certain urgency, and bands that have a certain fire in them. And hence Roadburn 2023 being a quite different compared to 2019 or the years before. We had to adapt.
Yeah, and I also think, and here we come to something that I also want to shout out to a lot of the people in the world who are listening to this and who are hoping that I will say that, or that you will say that you regret the times of 2018, 2019, or even before, when you had a lot of huge, well-known bands. I think that a lot of people forget, and I think that has always been the appeal that Roadburn holds for me. For me, one of the most fascinating things has always been discovery. discovering stuff. That is what made Roadburn so interesting. I mean, of course, over the years and also through his website, I got to know a lot of stuff. And still, whenever we get a Roadburn announcement, there are a minimum 2 bands or 3 bands that I don't know. And that is always the most exciting. And if there are 20 bands out there that you don't know, then you should be even happier, because you got 20 new opportunities to discover maybe your favorite new band. And that is something that people should hold more in their hearts. It's not just worshipping the riff, but it's worshipping discovery. It's a journey. And we'll come to the slogan, Redefining Heaviness, in a moment. Are the tickets already completely sold out for this year, or do we have to make a shout out for people to get your
the tickets
ticket?
Haven't been sold out. We haven't been sold out yet. We are very grateful to all the ticket buyers. The ticket sales are okay, but we are also, of course, facing a global economical crisis, the geopolitical crisis, and we start to notice that where Roadburn was once a destination festival, it's not a given that people have the financial opportunity to travel to Roadburn nowadays due to inflation, crisis, and everything that's going on in the world. So we are noticing that there is less people from far and away that come to Roadburn. So we start to notice that normally we have 85% of the people coming to Roadburn from abroad, and that is less nowadays. And we understand. Flights are expensive, hotels are expensive, food and drinks are expensive. Being at Roadburn for 4 or 5 days is expensive. And we are very aware that it's a hard choice nowadays for a lot of people to go to a festival or to go abroad for a holiday. So we are extremely grateful for those people that bought tickets. We are very happy that we sold quite a lot of tickets, and we keep our fingers crossed that the festival will be sold out. But if it isn't sold out, we will still have a super amazing Roadburn, a fully immersed Roadburn, and people will can expect everything that Roadburn is all about. And we keep going into 2024 also. So
yeah, we'll come to that later on, because I have a pitch for you for then. Let's talk about the slogan, Redefining Heaviness. When I told my wife Redefining Heaviness like a year ago, she looked at me and she was like, yeah, that's you. And I was like, thank you. So I redefined my heaviness. But that is a personal level. And I think you might agree that there is a difference between heavy in the past and heavy now, right?
There is a huge difference. When we started out back in 1999, heaviness was like linked to the thriving stoner and doom scene, the heavy psych scene. And there were a lot of bands that had a certain urgency, a spark. And that's the bands that we invited to Roadburn, as we wanted to champion these bands. And throughout the years, we started to notice that heaviness was changing a bit. There was post-metal, post-hardcore, post-rock, more a kind of dark psychedelica became darker and darker and such. And so we were always a festival, a forward-thinking festival. We wanted to reflect what was going on in the underground year after year. So that's why I said, well, we were organically changing the festival, because we kept reflecting the underground as it was every year, and that's still what we are doing. But nowadays, heaviness comes in so many shapes and forms, and that's why we introduced the slogan "Redefining Heaviness," as it's like our intent to make sure that all this music that is heavy has a place at Roadburn. And heaviness can be like amazing riffs. Heaviness can be drones. but heaviness can also be found in silence. Heaviness can also be found in vulnerability. Heaviness can also be found in experimental music, in the avant-garde. So all that we want to do is connect all these different shapes and forms of heaviness at the festival. Hence, redefining heaviness.
Would you say that heaviness nowadays lays a lot more on the emotional value of music?
Yeah, I think heaviness is yes, the emphasis of heaviness at Roadrun is nowadays in emotion, in being able to be how do I say that? Yeah, we want the bands to take people on a journey of discovery, maybe a journey of discovery into new worlds, into new feelings, into music as catharsis. We want to make sure that heaviness is not in the volume, but in the emotional side of things. We want to make sure that heaviness will take you like either onto an inward-looking journey or into sonic bliss. Yeah. It's either one of those, or maybe both, but we want to challenge both the bands and the attendees and ourselves to discover what heaviness will do to you, like either emotionally, spiritually, artistically, or all of the above.
It's also interesting when looking at bands that have played Roadburn, which are very, very different from each other. Let's just take Rockal on the one and Chelsea Wolf on the other. And I think this year is even a little further step on that direction. You have, for example, Otai Oni on the one hand and Ad Nauseam on the other. Both being very heavy. How important do you think is it for the audience to be open, to have an open ear?
It's very important for the audience to have an open mind and an open ear, because there is so much beauty at Roadburn. All these artists represent beauty, sonic bliss, catharsis. And if you have an open mind, you can experience so much beauty at Roadburn. And you can make, as I said, such a beautiful journey of discovery, whether it's inwards or outward, or like outward looking. I encourage people to just dive headfirst into this beautiful sonic realm that is Roadburn. It can be so rewarding, and it offers also like a very dynamic kind of festival, because if you are having all the same riffs or all the same drones or the same singer-songwriters all the time, things can become stale. It can become less immersive and less dynamic. And having the opportunity to go from one extreme into the other extreme within the sonic realm of Roadburn will make sure that you will remember a lot, because this will really it will hit you to how do you say
it will hit you harder if you have the extremes. If you only see black pictures all the time.
Sorry, I was.
If you connect it with white pictures, on the other hand, one will remember a lot more. One thing that struck me when I thought about it 2 days ago when I compiled my questionnaire. On the other hand, Roadburn is also taking a huge step backwards this year, because you are presenting a label. Rocket Recordings has a showcase, a lot of bands from Rocket Recordings, wonderful bands. And basically, Rocket Recordings has been doing the same thing for more than 20 years now that Roadburn started out to do. Championing, for example, heavy sounds, heavy psych sounds, And that is exactly what Rocket Recordings does. Was that also an intention when you asked them to do a showcase this year?
Yes, that was, you hit the nail on the head. The interesting thing about Rocket Recordings, they started out as a psych label and changed gradually through the years as well. They are on the same artistic trajectory as Roadburn, and I'm in touch with Chris Reeder for such a long time. And when he started to send me albums by Alison Cotton, Jay Zunes, and some of the other bands, we're starting to realize that they are redefining psych, they are redefining folk music a bit and redefining psych a bit. And that prompted us to invite them for Roadburn 2023. And instead of looking back and inviting bands that have been on the label for the last 25 years and representing the psych sounds, we were asking them specifically to pick and choose the artists that are taking Rocket Recordings into the future. It's literally the future of Rocket Recordings that is now being presented at Roadburn. And it was a one-on-one match. And I'm very lucky that Chris and Johnny took this opportunity and recognized the same trajectory and our intentions to give them the opportunity to do a label showcase at Roadburn.
A few days ago, before we recorded this interview here in March, you also announced the renewed collaboration with the Paradox. Are you in any way involved in booking the bands for Paradox, or is that done by the club itself?
That's done by the club itself. To give the proper context, Paradox is a very renowned jazz club in the Netherlands, and it's a forward-thinking club, a creative hub when it comes to the jazz scene in the Netherlands. And Barto van Straten, the artistic director of Paradox, is really well known for his artistic vision, for his choices of bands and artists playing Paradox. So involving the Paradox within Roadburn, it was a dream come true. And we asked the venue and specifically Barto to put together a Paradox lineup that is interesting for Roadburn too. So we literally gave him we asked him, could you please put together like a lineup that represents both Paradox and Roadburn, and it's so that the Roadburn attendees can go onto a discovery can go on a journey of discovery when it comes to jazz and avant-garde, but it's solely booked by Paradox. Of course, we talk about the lineup, and I can give them pointers where the boundaries of Roadburn are in a certain way when it comes to experimental jazz. But Barto has done an amazing job this year, and the lineup is so good. He had managed to get like the best possible players from the Dutch jazz scene to be part of the Paradox lineup. It's insane. I'm beyond happy.
Before we talk about next year's edition, I have two very quick questions. We are going to have secret gigs this year, right?
We hope to have secret gigs this year. It's the skate hall has been rebuilt, so we don't have that area anymore. But we hope to have one or two secret shows at the festival.
Is the Hall of Fame again going to be a tent?
No, the Hall of Fame is not being attended. That was a 1 year only solution. The Hall of Fame has been refurbished, rebuilt, turned into like a really amazing, small but state-of-the-art venue. And it's fully functioning, and we are super proud to have Hall of Fame back at Roadburn 2023. It's not a 225, but a 350 capacity venue with state-of-the-art lights and sound, an amazing stage, and we can now use it for all kinds of performances.
Wow.
And I'm very happy that they are on board, as well as the Spoorzone. And the Hall of Fame tent at Roadburn 2022 was only a temporary solution until the venue opened.
Which show are you for sure not gonna miss this year?
Elizabeth Color Wheel.
Oh yeah.
I love that band so much. I have met the band in New York. I met the band in the state of New York at Basilica Sound in Hudson, but they didn't play. And since 2020, I tried to get the band over to Europe, and they finally are going to play Roadburn as Elizabeth Color Wheel, and they're doing the commissioned music project with Ethan from Primitive Man.
Yeah.
But I'm so much looking forward to this one. I have plenty of other gigs that I want to see, but Elizabeth Color Wheel is like a kind of it became a bit like a personal favorite to have at Roadburn, and we finally made it happen.
Last question before our infamous quickfire round. Next year, it's going to be 25 years of Roadburn. When the first one was in 1999, then next year is going to be 25 years. Are you already thinking about that? Not like staging or which bands are playing, but is that something that crossed your mind, that next year you spend a quarter of a century doing Roadburn?
Yes, I'm thinking about it more on a personal level. It's, of course, we have already done 25 festivals, as in the beginning we did multiple all-nighters a year. But of course, it's very interesting to see 25 years. It's interesting to see the 25 years of Roadburn. When it comes to booking the festival, I haven't thought about it at all.
And you should.
As organizing Roadburn 2023 is so difficult, and it's so hard to accomplish this year's festival that I want to have this edition done before actually thinking about Roadburn 2024.
We come to the last bit in every Veil of Sound interview, in every normal length Veil of Sound interview. You will get a few alternatives like roses versus tulips, and you have to choose one or the one which you like more. For example, roses versus tulips, I will always say roses. My wife will always say tulips. Let's start off with something simple. What would you rather prefer? The peeled sessions or the same band doing a live concert?
Huh. You put me on the spot here. I will prefer to see the bands in a live setting.
Although we have to say that the peeled session were as close and as good to a live concert.
As live goes.
Yes, exactly.
Especially the older ones.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. What would you rather eat right now? Risotto versus pasta?
Pasta.
Mm-hmm. What would you drink? Wine or beer?
None of them. I'm not drinking any alcohol.
I forgot. But you're just like me, non-alcoholics. Yeah.
So
we should form a group, non-alcoholics Anonymous.
But a ginger ale, yes, please.
But be careful, some American ginger ales are... a few places to visit concerts. Where would you rather see a concert? In Liverpool or in Manchester?
Manchester.
Berlin or Hamburg?
Berlin.
Oslo or Copenhagen?
I say Copenhagen because I only have seen one gig. I only have seen one band in Copenhagen and plenty in Oslo.
For your next vacation, the sea or the mountains?
The sea.
Coming to one of our both favorite bands, Celtic Frost, monotheist or pandemonium?
Into the pandemonium all the time.
Although we have to say that there are some hugely good songs on monotheist.
Well, yes, as well, but Into the Pandemonium has played a very significant role in my life when it came out. So that's an easy choice. Not saying that Monotonist is it's on the same level, but hey, I bought the album I bought Into the Pandemonium when it actually came out.
I know that neither band will ever play at Roadburn because that's not underground. But I know that you like both of them. Although I think I even know the answer. But which band, if you ever had the possibility to book any band? Paradise Lost or Dead Can Dance?
Dead Can Dance.
I thought about it. I have heard you proclaim your love for that band so often.
Loved that band. We tried to get the band, spoke to the band, but it was not possible on all kinds of levels.
Yeah.
And we have tried really hard. The Dutch bookings agent has tried to help us out really well, but in the end, Dead Can Dance is too big for Roadburn in a way.
I think that's also interesting, because when a festival sets out to promote the underground, of course, you need a few headliners to get people going. But I think that they are just simply really too big, yeah. Last question for the record collector in you. For you, which label has the better discography? Stax or Motown?
Oh, I'm a Stax guy. Yeah. That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer, just like Dead Can Dance, huh?
Yeah, I love, of course, like the stuff on Motown, but yeah, no, Stax.
Walter, thanks for all your time. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for doing this special with us. And of course, thanks for organizing our favorite festival every year again and again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Torsten. Thank you so much. It was a very nice interview, and you put me on the spot with a couple of questions, but that's really good. I'd like to be challenged.
So see you in 2 weeks, my friend.
See you in 2 weeks.